I would never have believed this if somebody had told me 5 months ago that I would be taking a drum lesson over my winter holiday vacation. Here I am in London, Ontario, Canada, with Karl Sloman, and I am going to have my very, very first drum lesson ever. And I feel very, a little bit lost because this is not the kind of instrument I'm used to sitting behind, but I'm excited and I'm eager to see how this goes, both from a student perspective and a teacher perspective, and just part of my whole journey into rock music. So I'm ready, Karl.
Over to me. Okay. Hi, everyone. By now, most of you know who I am. I'm delighted to be here. I'm at the London Conservatory of Contemporary Music, which is the music school I own. I have 3 other business partners. I am the head of the percussion department here at the school. So I'm honored to actually be able to be speaking and working with someone who's a high-level musician. So with that, we're going to get started, and I'm going to handle this just how I talk to most of my students and how I deal with them. Okay, so Amy, welcome. This is going to be great what we're doing here today. Now, just so that the audience knows, I've already told Amy the parts, and if you're unfamiliar with them, if you go to this video here, what you'll do is you can see the drumming presentation that I gave Amy before. So she's familiar with the basic layout of what's going on. So normally for my students, I would teach them all the names of the drums. I'd have them hit them so that they could feel them. But Amy has already been oriented, so she doesn't need to know how to do that.
Let's hope I remember it.
Yeah, and I am confident you will. Okay, so first thing, Amy, is how we hold the drumstick.
Okay.
So take up one of your drumsticks in your right hand. I'm going to demonstrate how we do this, and then you're going to do it after I do it.
Okay.
So what we do is we just take the drumstick, and if you remember as a kid, we used to sometimes put our hands like this in front of lights and make like chickens on the wall in front of lights. And so what we do is we just take the drumstick and place it between the first knuckle joint of the index finger and the thumb directly across from it.
Okay, is there any particular point I'm supposed to
We will
take
get to
hold
that
of
in
it?
a couple of moments, but good question. So what we then do is we take the remainder of our fingers and we gently curl them around the stick so that the stick looks like this in our hand. Yeah, exactly. It should be very natural, very comfortable. Now, the amount of pressure we use to hold the stick, pull the stick out of my hand. You can see there's not much pressure there, is there? So we just want to hold it enough that the stick will lay in our hand without sliding out. Now, your question is really good about, well, how far up the stick do I hold it? What I generally show my students is have about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of the stick sticking out of the bottom of your hand. And you know you're in the right place if it's pushing against that fleshy, fatty part of the hand, okay? You don't want the stick riding up onto the baby finger like this.
Okay.
Because if you do, there's no fat there, you will injure your baby finger. So when we hold it, it's in a very natural position like this. Again, our index finger across from the thumb, and we just hold it in that relaxed stance. Now, this position between the index finger and the thumb is called the fulcrum, or the pivoting point. And if you look here, you can see the stick can pivot between those. Okay, and as I said, just curl your fingers around it very naturally and comfortably, and you're good to go. When you're playing, be aware, do not place your index finger on top of the stick. You will injure your finger. Okay, so we want to
I can imagine so. That would be really stressful.
So we want to keep it down on the side in that position that I told you about earlier.
Okay.
Now the left hand, we're going to copy exactly the same as we did the right hand. So take it, index finger and thumb, curl the fingers gently around the stick.
See if I can do this left-handed.
Sure. There you go. You got it. I would pull it up a little bit because, yeah, that's looking better. Okay, does that make sense? So pick up your other drumstick with your right hand. Same way. Curl your fingers around, nice and relaxed, and now you're good to go. This is called match grip. For some of our watchers out there, yes, we do have traditional grip. I don't teach traditional grip. I do eventually do some lectures to my students on it because I am an ex-pipe drummer, drum and pipes, so I learned to play with traditional grip, but I have many reasons why I go with the match grip method in our playing. Any questions so far?
Nope, I'm just comparing my 2 sets of grips and seeing how if they're matching and all.
Yeah. Now be careful, because one of the things I notice you're doing is you're sliding your index finger up so it's not across from your thumb.
Oh, okay.
Bring it back
So it needs to
down
be
so
back
it's
here.
directly across from the thumb. Excellent.
Okay.
Because again, you always want that balancing
and it
point.
needs to be on the joint, you said, right?
Yes, because if you keep your finger too forward, there's no balancing point anymore. The stick can fall out of your hand. Does that make sense? Any questions?
I think so. So here,
Yep.
I'm looking at how my fingers are lying. This one wants to go more here, but you said don't do that. So
No.
keep it more this way, right?
Exactly. You always want the fleshy part
My
of the
left
hand.
hand's better.
And that may be because all of your years of playing harp and doing things, your right hand is stronger, and because it's more
Has
developed.
certain habits.
Yes, it's more developed.
Right.
So your left hand's going to cause you less grief because it's
Right.
learning for the first time, whereas your right hand already has certain rules that it's been taking part in over the years.
Right.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, so you can put your sticks back down on the snare drum in front of you and just relax. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, here at my school, I wrote a book called The Coordination Code. This is the book here. It was published in 2012. If you're a drummer, go and get a copy. I think you'll find it very interesting. And what's the best part is my email address is in the back. You can get a free lesson from me if you do it. And we do it virtually, but I give you a free drum lesson on how to actually use the book. Amy, take a look at where it says number 1 here, this here.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
Well, a box, a grid,
Okay.
4 squares.
What else? Think of something in the world that's practical that we use that might look like that.
A window.
Thank you very much. And that's what I call it. It's called a window. And our window is where we're going to be doing all the work for the system that I developed.
Okay.
So what we have to understand here is that when we have our window, we're going to pretend we're looking through the window. So here's you with your hair, and I'm a terrible artist. We come down like this. There's our hands, and we come here with our feet down here. So we are looking through you. So this is the back of your head as we're looking through you. So without knowing anything more, if I were to go to number 2 there, using your imagination, what do you think it's asking you to do as a drummer?
Probably use my left hand.
Outstanding. See how simple this
I'm
is?
not sure it's so outstanding. It looks pretty logical to
No,
me.
but that's the beauty of this system,
Yeah.
is it's very simple to use. Even 5-year-old kids pick this up right away. If I asked you to do number 3, what?
2 hands.
You got it. Number 4?
Left hand, right foot.
Exactly. If I filled all the boxes in,
All I've got.
yes, all hands come. What if I didn't fill anything in?
Then I ought to be quiet.
Yes, or a rest. In musical terms, we call those rests. And of course, I'm just joking. Of course she knows what a rest is. Okay, so this is the basic fundamental of how we do things. Now, if you look on the book that I placed on your music stand, and just so you know, I write all of the books here in the school for our students, and Amy has a copy of my white level book, which is our entry level book in the school. She can actually see a pattern on there. And she's going to attempt to play this pattern. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into sections so that she understands how it works. So Amy, when you look at that pattern, you'll see there's a coordination code pattern there. And
Yes.
above it is written 1 and 2 and 3
Yes,
and
yes.
4 and. What does that say to you? What kind of notes would those be if we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and?
Well, if we're in 4/4 time, then that would be 8th notes.
Very good. And if you look at the chart just above it in standard notation, you'll see we're in 4/4.
Okay.
So indeed, your answer is correct. Geez, go figure. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. So what you're going to do is pick up the drumsticks again using the technique that I showed you earlier on. That's it. Yep. Both hands. Great. So let's look at beat number 1 on the chart in front of you. What is beat number 1 telling you to do?
Left hand, right foot.
Okay, so you're going to do those because they're in the same box. You will do those at the same time, and you're going to count 1. Go ahead and try that.
On this,
On the hi-hat
this.
and the bass drum, you got it.
1.
Very good. Can you push down on the hi-hat even harder and try that again?
1.
Very good. Count 1, do it again.
1.
Very good. Outstanding. So there's your first note. You've now played your first note on the drum set. How awesome is that?
Yay!
Yes. Okay. So now we see our and. What's and telling us to do?
Left hand.
Left hand. You got it. So
And.
very good. So now what I want you to do is play one and the and.
One, and.
Perfect. Pattern number 2. Now pattern number, or rather beat number two. This is a little bit more complex because what you have to do is in between the and the 2, you want to lift your foot and bring it back down. And what you want to do is you want to bring your foot down so that your stick hits the hi-hat when the hi-hat gets to its closed position.
So why do I want to bring my foot up and down?
Because
is it making a noise?
Yes.
Or is it because I'm a pianist and my feet do other things?
Well, let's try it. Just with your foot alone.
Okay.
Lift it and lower it.
Oh, okay.
Hear what it's doing? Try it again. Great question. Now, when you come down and you hit it at the same time, you're not going to hear that chick because the hand's hitting it at the same time. So what we're going to do is just do together. Perfect. And leave it down once you've got it closed.
That's my piano pedaling coming in.
That's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
That is perfect. Now you'll see on beat number 2 as well, your snare drum is coming in at the same time, remember? Because both of our hands are going to be going. So essentially you're doing both your hands and your left foot are going to come down together. Go ahead.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
So now let's go back. Let's do 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Oops.
That's okay. You left out the snare. So here's the rule that we have at our school. You made a mistake there. So now I want you to slow it down.
Okay.
So I want you to play it at about this speed. 1 and 2. Go ahead. Try it again.
Here we go. 1 and 2.
Perfect. Okay? And of course, as I teach all my students, if you can't play something at a given speed, slow it down.
Yes.
And if you can't play it at the slowed down speed, you
then
slow
go
it down
slower.
again. Exactly, until you're doing it so slowly that the brain has time to comprehend everything it's doing. You've never done this before. You've never seen this kind of notation before. I expect you to struggle with it for the first little while, although it is considerably easier than using standard notation. Okay. So, what's on the end of 2?
Same as the end of 1.
Go ahead.
And.
Outstanding. So now I want you to play 1 and 2 and. Take your time, counting out loud.
1 and 2 and.
Perfect. By the way, you've just now got the pattern down because 3 and 4 and, if you look on the chart, is the same as 1 and 2 and. So let's play 1 and 2 and, 3 and 4 and, taking your time, counting out loud. Go ahead, please.
To go slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Congratulations. This pattern for your audience and for you, this pattern that Amy just played has been used in more hit records than any other pattern in the history of music. Or I should say of rock music. So what we're going to do is we're going to try it a couple of times. And what I want you to do is I want you to take your time doing it. And as you feel comfortable, try to start speeding it up. Don't go crazy. Just get a little bit faster and see if you can make it work.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Go crazy, Amy.
Give me a few minutes.
Yes, certainly. And we have a few minutes. So go ahead.
Do I keep going?
No, you can loop it, yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing, and this is very interesting. You can tell you're a classically trained musician because everything is, it's almost like you're playing off the kit. Now, what I want you to do is the big part of drumming is being relaxed at all times and not expending any more energy that you have to. I once worked it out. In a normal night's playing, your snare drum stick alone will go 5 miles.
Oh boy.
So if I can take it from hitting from up here to hitting it down here, I cut that distance dramatically, which then allows me to maintain my energy levels because I'm not putting so much out there. And the beauty of an electronic drum kit and acoustic drum kits to a lesser degree, but if we need you louder, we'll just turn it up. So you don't have to hit things hard. You can just do it nice and low. So this time, and I know it's a lot of additional stuff to think about, but just keep your hands down, relax, and follow through. But this time I want you to loop it, play me 4 or 5 bars. And as I said, as you start to play it, if you start to feel comfortable, slowly increase the speed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then I go back. Let's try
Yes.
this again.
Go ahead.
And 3 and 4.
Great. And stop there for a moment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to sit down and show you how I play it so that you can get now a new view of it.
Right.
And also I'm going to start slow and pick up speed so you can hear what it sounds like at a higher speed. Does that sound fair? So this is how it works. I'm going to do it slowly for you and then slowly increase speed so that you can hear how it goes.
Okay.
You'll see I'm going to count all the way through it so you should know exactly where we are in the performance. So here we go. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and you can see I'm not killing the drums.
Yeah.
Just playing very easily. And 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's what it sounds like at a speed you'd likely play it in a band.
Okay.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Any questions on that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I
have
just
a seat
have to
again.
practice a bit to get it
Yes,
there.
you take it slowly. I certainly do not expect you to play it at the speeds that I play it at. So just sit down.
Yeah.
Again, within 6 weeks, I could have you on stage playing with a band. And I mean that sincerely. I could, because you are taking to it quite naturally. But again, it's because I think you've got musical background. That's why. And for those of you who aren't musicians, maybe you should consider taking some lessons. It's just an amazing experience. Go ahead.
I feel like I'm not playing with the same sort of relaxation that you're playing.
You're not, and that's okay. You're new to this. After you've been doing it for a month, you'll be relaxed like I am. And all of my students are the same thing. They're all stiff when they're playing it. It's just relax. But it's hard to because your mind is racing. And yes, you're going to tend to tense up. But the key is be as relaxed as possible.
All right.
Go ahead. Try again. You're doing great, though. Here's another little trick. Let's just play on the hi-hat for a second. Okay. And instead of doing 1 and 2 and just 1 and 2, try and keep the stick in constant motion. Yeah! 1 and 2. And instead of counting 1 and 2 and, which is what I try to get most of my students to do, but because you're a professional musician, start counting 1 and 2 and just to relax yourself. Okay. 1 and 2. But that was a lot better just watching it.
2 and 3 and 4.
Now, here's another trick for you. Most drummers that are starting out will not do the open and closed hi-hat part.
Okay.
So let's just try doing the pattern without doing the open and closed of the hi-hat. So you've just got your bass drum on 1, your snare drum on 3. Try that.
1, 2,
3, 4. Yes.
Yeah. 1,
2, 3, 4. And your hi-hat is just continuing all the way through.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So then 1
That's it.
and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
There you go. Look at that. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and
1.
Okay, that was outstanding though. That was outstanding. You've already increased the speed dramatically. Now, normally what I would do with my students is I'd have us start playing to a metronome. And we'd start at, say, 60 beats a minute, and then increase it by 10 beats a minute as they get more and more comfortable. I am telling you right now, if you gave me 15 minutes of you just doing that, by the time you came in, you'd be da, 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 da. I'm telling you.
I think so.
I can tell.
I'm finding the pattern. It took me a few minutes to figure out
Sure.
how the pattern feels to go through it. But once I get the feel of it, then I feel like I can go with it.
Okay, so now we're going to have fun. This was not, I wasn't intending to do this, but I'm going to do it to her anyway because we've got a bit of time here.
Okay, what's coming?
So we may as well do it. We're going to learn what's called a drum fill. Now, what you were playing there was a drum pattern.
Okay.
And just for your audience so that they know what drum patterns are. Drum patterns are what we often use in verses and choruses of music in order to set up a rhythm that the rest of the band can play to. But in order to make the music first more exciting and to indicate to the band that, guys, we're going from a verse to a chorus, we may use something called a drum fill. You're filling in a space with something different.
I see.
And audibly, it has to sound different from what you're playing or no one would know what you were doing. I'm going to teach you a very basic drum fill.
Okay.
It's one that's been used by thousands of drummers throughout the years. Nothing complex. We're going to base it on 16th notes. And how do we count 16th notes?
Well, there are lots of ways of counting, but probably you count 1 E and a 2 E and a...
You got it, my dear.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we're going to go from 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and to 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and a. And what you're going to do is you're going to play something called a single stroke roll. And a single stroke roll is simply taking the sticks and playing right, left, right, left, right, left. So on your snare drum, what I want you to do is play me a full, a full bar of single stroke rolls, 16th notes on the snare drum. So to be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Go ahead on the snare drum.
1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a.
Outstanding. And I love your finger position. You've kept your fingers, your finger and your thumb across from each other. You're not letting your finger right up on top of the stick. Okay, so that's going to be our 1 E and a.
Okay.
2 E and a, you're going to play on there.
Okay.
3 E and a, you're going to play there. And can I get you to guess where you're going to play for? Yes, on 4, you're going to play there. So it's going to be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Go ahead, try that.
Okay.
Beautiful. So that's now your fill. Now
Okay.
the key with the fill is that you don't want to speed it up when you're playing. And this is where our counting comes in. So you're going to play your pattern 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a.
1.
Yes.
Okay.
Taking your time and take your time because I know you're
Taking my time.
Normally, with most of my students, I won't hit fills until the 3rd or 4th week. You're doing it in the first 15 minutes.
So
take your time and
I gotta
give
go
that
slow
a try.
first.
Yep.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1.
Beautiful.
Oops,
And
I did it
although you
wrong.
got thrown out, that was beautiful. You're supposed to hit my hand now.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Again, that is the fundamental. Now I'm going to give you one final thing before we leave so that you can
Okay.
now complete this whole process. When we do a fill, normally what we're trying to do when we come back in, we want to indicate to the entire band where beat 1 is. And there's 2 ways of doing, well, technically there's 3 ways of doing it. You can do it by hitting the bass drum on 1. You could use it by hitting a crash cymbal on 1, or you could use a bass drum and a crash cymbal on 1. This here is a crash cymbal. Okay? So we're going to use the crash cymbal for this. So now what you're going to do, you're going to do your
4 E
fill.
and a crash.
1 with the bass drum because you're starting the next pattern, right? Because remember, how do we start our pattern? It's hi-hat, bass drum.
Right.
But all you're doing is replacing now the hi-hat with the crash cymbal on beat 1.
Okay. So
Now this often takes people a while. So what we're
4
going to
E
do,
and crash with the bass drum.
yes. So what I want you to do before we even get to there is you're going to now play pattern 1, but you're going to do it starting with the crash cymbal. So it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Does that make sense?
So
1 with your bass
so
drum.
when I go 1
and 2. Yes!
and.
That's exactly how it works. And again, try and teach a 5-year-old that. because they just get totally confused of, what am I supposed to say? Yeah, okay, so it takes a while. But again, because you have experience as a musician, you understand counting. But to give you credit, you're doing something you've never done before. So it's incredible what you're doing here. I think you need to buy a drum set for Christmas.
I'm still
but anyway,
testing my
so
grip.
now what we're going to do is the final part of all this is you're just going to play that pattern. You're then going to do the fill. On beat 1, you're going to go onto the crash with the bass drum to start your next pattern, and then back over onto the and then 2.
Okay.
A lot to remember, I know. And I don't have it written down for you. Often I'll write this down for a student. You're having to do it out of memory. Except
I'll try.
You still have your pattern there if you need to look at your pattern.
Okay.
Go ahead, my dear.
4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2.
Perfect.
Ha! I did it.
Perfect. Again, you'd be able to play in a band. I'm serious, in no time. So let me now do the whole thing at full speed, just so that you can see how it goes, because now you know the concepts behind it. Your audience can see it, although you did that incredibly well as anyone I've ever seen. Okay, so here we go. So now I'll do it. I'm going to do it at full speed this time, just straight out so you can see it. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 bars of the pattern, 1 bar of the fill, and then I'm going to go back into the pattern. Okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Okay?
Yay!
Does that make sense?
That's great.
Try it one more time and then we are done.
Okay.
Unless we have questions, okay? And remember, this is the #1 pattern. In fact, the song Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, which you will be introduced to at a later date, it uses this beat. And it was the number one bestseller.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Here we go. Find my grip again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and
Perfect. Do you have any questions on what we went over?
I don't think I do. I mean, you're a fabulous teacher. I understand. I was able to figure it out. It's just a matter of if I were going to really master this, I would need to sit here and practice for a bit.
Yes. Now, one of the things that's a beauty too, because as you know, I've given you a copy of the white book to take home with you. You don't have to have a drum set to play this. Because the coordination code, the way it's written, all you're trying to do is coordinate your body movements to what's in the boxes.
Right, right.
So really, you don't have to have a drum set. Whereas if you're using standard notation, it's considerably harder because your brain and mind is trying to figure out, okay, what's the hi-hat doing? It's on this line, and the snare is on this line, or in this space, and the bass drum's in this space. It's considerably more difficult. But the coordination code allows you to look at the boxes, which you showed to your audience are very instinctual.
Right.
You were able to figure it out with me giving you the minimal amount of information, and then you were able to apply it to the drum set.
Right.
This Groove Essentials poster up here, which I teach all of my students, back in 2003, before I wrote the book, that used to take anywhere between 16 months and 24 months to go through the whole poster, because it's a very complex pattern poster. Now, in this day and age, someone like you, you'd be through it in 6 weeks. That's how it's compressed it, because it is simple and it's meant to be simple. And one other final point to your audience, I'm going to do an advertisement for myself here. If you decide
you should.
He's
a fabulous teacher.
If you want to do lessons, I do them virtually. And I don't care if you're a beginning student or someone who's a mastered student who just wants to build on their molar technique or free strokes or whatever, I can certainly help you out. And you saw, none of this was edited. This was just straight the way that Amy was playing it on here. And you saw the teaching style that I use. You're a great student. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity and having the courage to sit down and play on a drum set with me. Okay?
Oh, it was great fun. And
Good.
I hope we get to do it again sometime. So that's it, everyone. There's my first drum lesson. and I actually managed to get through a bar and a half of stuff on the drums. And if I had time, I would sit here and practice for a while because I like mastering new things and I like challenges. And this is completely new to me. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, or at least half as much as I did. And I will see you next time.